All right, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome you all to the Steakhouse Community Call. We'll be talking about multi-chain ETH today. My name's Amir. I'll be leading us through this discussion and wanted just to give you a few ground rules for today. This is really going to be talking about multi-chain ETH, but if you haven't read the blog yet, I would encourage you to do so to supplement the information you're going to hear today. And this call is really designed to be really simple, the easy mode of community calls. It's not supposed to be a complex thing or super deep dive. If you want that kind of information, if you want the deep dive kind of information, I would encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and watch the videos posted that we did at our event at DEF Connect. And so if you're really looking for that kind of information, that's what I would point you to. So I'll give a brief summary of Steakhouse protocol, the registry model, what really deploys multi-chain ETH. We'll talk about that in brief, and then we'll talk about the attributes of multi-chain ETH. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the general chat. We'll have a section at the end really dedicated to answer your questions. And if you stick around to the end, we have some information to share with you guys. So looking forward to that piece. And as always, this is not financial advice. So please do your own research as you interact with the Steakhouse protocol. Let's get started. So like I said, before we jump into multi-chain ETH and its attributes, we first have to look at how is multi-chain ETH deployed by the Steakhouse protocol. And this is really key to utilizing multi-chain ETH's properties. So like in layman's terms, the Steakhouse protocol tracks validator's assets, its yields, and ownership on the consensus layer and execution layer. And so Steakhouse accomplishes this as a registry modeled smart contract suite. And so this registry is completely permissionless and is tooling around the Ethereum deposit contract. Now, this tracking enables Steakhouse to perform efficient accounting and accountability of the staked ETH to their associated derivatives. So this gives multi-chain ETH, the derivative asset, an atomic dependency on that underlying asset. So this means at any time, the registry can perform this atomic redemption from day zero. So you don't have to, we're not waiting on some event to do that. Can happen right now. And this redemption path is publicly verifiable. So anybody holding multi-chain ETH is assured that there's a direct link to their underlying asset in a validator on the consensus layer. And so this flowchart that you're seeing here is pretty much the UI flow, right? So this is how you interact with the Steakhouse protocol. So you have your 32 ETH here, and then you're going to generate your validator keys. Now, most of you from looking at the names here have already gone through this process, but for those who are new, you have two options to generate your validator keys. You have the expert mode, which takes you to like the traditional CLI, very similar to the Ethereum Launchpad, and that's like an hour plus process. Or you can go through the easy mode, and easy mode is a non-custodial process. We're just clicking the buttons. We just automated the buttons for you, and so you can generate your your keys that way. Register your validator with a Steakhouse registry, and then you're interacting with the Ethereum deposit contract. And when you're interacting there, you confirm your balance report, you deposit your 32 ETH, and now in this time, the consensus layer has to confirm your validator on chain. And so while that is happening, you set up your node, and that's completely up to your choice. We do have a few options for those of you who are new to staking and validator creation. There are some options for you to set up your node. Once your validator is made active on the consensus layer, you can then mint your derivatives. So you have your 32 ETH, and it's split into 24 dETH tokens, multi-chain ETH, and to 8 liquid validator tokens. And we'll get more into that later. But so this is just a general flow of your experience. Now, most of you have already experienced this process. And so we'll go to the next slide, why you all came. So let's talk a little bit about multi-chain ETH. As you can see in this graphic, multi-chain ETH offers value across the board. So let's dig into each one. So first is the fees. So Steakhouse protocol is completely non-custodial and is a public benefit infrastructure. So at no point does Steakhouse protocol touch your keys. Like, you have ownership of your keys and you have ownership of your ETH. So we can't even even if we want to, we can't touch it, right? So we can't touch your ETH. Where there's other forms of ETH that do take commission, right? So we're commission free, and so already you're getting the most out of your ETH just on that basis alone. And you kind of hear me say this a lot, the redeemability aspect, the redemption aspect to the assets is what really what drives home these trustless derivative assets. And so this is due to that atomic dependency that I mentioned earlier on that base underlying asset. We're not waiting for a market event to happen. You're not waiting for anything. You're not dependent on any sort of event happening to get that redemption path. It's available right now. You can see it that anybody holding that ETH can find it on chain. There's no pooling. There's no mixing of your assets with others. There's no buyback system. And so the next is, yield bearing. So you can already see, the numbers a little bit higher. So one, obviously that is due to the fees, there's no commissions. And the second piece is the tokenomic structure of your multi-chain ETH tokens. So essentially we're taking the staking rewards of 32 ETH tokens and putting them on 24 dETH tokens. So multi-chain ETH yields 33% more per ETH than your traditional ETH validators. And so this yield is slash proof and rewarded every epoch. Well, Amir, how's that slash proof? Well, whenever you mint your tokens, the 24 derivative ETH and your 8 slot tokens, we also are splitting, dETH is a risk averse solution for, retail as well. So, that the slashing and leaking events would happen, at the validator level, and those will be represented on your slot tokens. And obviously, the big push, the big word here is multi-chain. So dETH is multi-chain tokens are bridgeless, completely bridgeless, and this is enabled by gateways. We'll have gateways where you can choose whatever L1 or L2, whatever ecosystem you want to port or distribute your multi-chain ETH tokens to. And essentially, the protocol will run a balance report and make sure you are in possession of all the associated derivative tokens associated with your validator. We would isolate them and then burn them. And then you'll be able to remint those tokens to your desired chain of choice while maintaining that redemption path that I mentioned also. And this process is completely permissionless. So you're interacting directly with the smart contracts. There's no intermediary facilitating this transaction. We'll go to the next one. So if you read the blog or if you're just hanging out in the general chat, you've probably already seen this graphic. And we kind of already touched on a few of these, but I really want to focus in on, the bottom right section over here, and really want to talk about the composability aspect of multi-chain ETH. So with this full, open source reconciliation registry model, it exposes a programmable layer for stake ETH yields to be built off of. And so you can learn more about that at Stakehouse Academy. And like I said, if you want to go more in depth on that, you can learn about it with those YouTube videos as well. So instead of having protocols or new teams having to find outsource market makers or find ways of revenue streams, you just can use the native inherent revenue and yield of the Ethereum network to build a more sustainable protocols, and this can just offers a whole different set of tooling around Ethereum staking. So that's kind of hits the composable triangle here. Fungible tokens, obviously we kind of just already mentioned that, but now you can use dETH into any ecosystem and it's completely fungible. Personalized yield. So this means, your yield is directly connected to your validator, so you're earning those rewards. It's based off you. So there's not a dilution aspect when it comes to your multi-chain ETH tokens. It's your yield. You are the portfolio manager of your tokens. And like I said earlier, I'm kind of regurgitating myself in different words, but there's no peg, there's no pool, there's no oracle. So how is dETH multi-chain ETH price maintained? It's very similar to that of wrapped ETH. I really like that line. It's like wrapped ETH but with yield. And so if is any, you know, loosening of price parity of ETH to dETH, multi-chain ETH, there's an arbitrage opportunity, and you can exit, rage quit Stakehouse protocol, and that is going to be a completely, and you still retain ownership of your validator staked on the consensus layer. And so those are the options you have with that. And where can you get dETH? You can stake a validator with Stakehouse Registry and mint your tokens, or you can just swap on the open market. So this is kind of the full view, very easy mode of multi-chain ETH, the different capabilities and attributes of what it can do. And the key piece here is that redemption guarantee by the smart contract. So what differentiates dETH from other forms of ETH is that clear redemption path. There's no mixing of your asset. You know exactly where it is. So if you're looking at like an overview of multi-chain ETH gives you power over your assets, right? And it's completely trustless. So now you can use this to go into any ecosystem. You can build off of it, and it's yours. There's nobody's touching it. It's censorship resistant. And this is going to be really key as Ethereum scales and there's more L2s being built, other ecosystems. The need to have a base safe asset to build off of is going to be key for building a very more sustainable crypto ecosystem, is to have this programmable layer ready to be used, and it's exposed, repackaged into different forms, different dETH tranches, indexes, and so forth. So as multi-chain ETH utility grows, so will the sustainable network with it. And so we will go to some questions. So any questions in the general chat so far? Now, it's a good question. So yeah, there's a very key differentiation. I think it's confusing a lot of people out there. The word derivative is kind of thrown around there in our space, and it's really confusing to people and kind of misleading. And so, synthetic, whenever you stake with Stakehouse, you are not getting an issue token immediately. And that's a very key difference. So whenever you stake with Ethereum, whenever you stake with Stakehouse, you're having to wait until your validator is confirmed. If you choose that how you're getting access to it, and make sure that you are getting a derivative, keyword derived from the underlying base staked asset, rather than you immediately put you're selling your ETH into a system, and immediately you get a synthetic token that that is relying on a pooled system to derive its price and maintenance to give you value. So I think that's a very key difference. And that redemption, without that redemption path, that would not be considered a derivative. I think that is, I don't know, kind of sound like a broken record over here, but that is the key difference, that what makes dETH, multi-chain ETH, a derivative and not a synthetic. And the answer is no. With that atomic dependency, that is what's tracking your validator yield to the dETH. And so you're not going to incur any losses by using a gateway and reminting your tokens. The burning of the tokens does not burn your yield. It doesn't burn anything that you've earned. Since this atomic dependency, you have an accounting system in the Stakehouse registry that is tracking your ETH yields. So it's literally, you're deriving, right? So it's going back, that's where your base is, and it's deriving to a new chain. You don't have to do any extra work. You can just use it as you would any other token. It's that, the Stakehouse registry is doing the work. Those smart contracts are doing the work for you, so you don't have to worry about incurring any losses by going to a different chain, or worrying about, oh, is this going to be broken off, whatnot. You have that base accounting layer in the underlying asset. Yeah, the answer to that question is yes. So like I said, there's no mixing of your assets. And so you are still incurring, your yield. Like I said, the overarching theme from multi-chain ETH attributes is you have you are the portfolio manager, and it is completely non-custodial. So you put your, you know, dETH into a pool, you're still incurring the yields from your validator, because there's that, you can't break off, all of a sudden break off that that atomic dependency. And we're so thankful for you all joining us today, and that'll be it.